Welcome to No Talking During the Movies. I am your host, Stephen Austin.
And I am your co-host, Tank, aka Forrest Plump.
Forrest Plump, I like that. So we're back in the studio. Well, I am. Tank, you're still living in your bunker, right?
Hey man, I don't know if I'll ever leave. I love it in here.
It's comfy. You got the cat poster and everything. Well,
Yeah,
it's
man.
what is that? A blanket?
It's a towel that I got in Panama City Beach.
All right.
It says, what does it say?
Kitty, oh,
Karaoke. Karaoke. It's a
karaoke,
cat. It's
karaoke,
a kid.
karaoke. That like that.
it's a it's a cat singing karaoke on a towel because
Oh,
that's what you spend your money on in Panama City
yeah. I was
Beach.
gonna say because that's what you get.
Yeah.
Um, if this podcast was Disney Plus, Tank is the Mandalorian, and I
Mhm.
am High School Musical, the musical. Both of us are entertaining, but only one of us is the real reason you're here.
I like that. That was a nice. Usually, you kind of backhanded compliment me, like if we were a food, Tank would be Crisco, and I would be the pan.
See, I try to keep it up with like TV and entertainment, so I always like it. All started with me doing like movie duos,
Uh-huh.
like Han and Chewie and stuff like
Right.
that. And I have run out of movie duos, so now I'm
I
like,
like it.
it has to be related to either what we're talking about or entertainment in general.
It's good. It's good. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
We're gonna talk about Mandalorian today because that
Yeah,
was
we are.
exciting.
Yeah, season 2, episode 2 is what we're going to be ending the podcast on today, and boy, I am excited to talk about it.
Me too.
And thankfully, we don't actually have a lot of news or trailers this week. This might actually be a pretty short podcast, which would be kind of a first for us. What
I'm
did I?
sure. I'm sure the listener, aka your mom, will appreciate
Hey, 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 hey. I listened to it too. But our question today is going to be: what's your favorite director, and what film is your favorite that they've done?
Hmm.
Kind of a double question, but I've kind of been saving this question for a long time, and I just thought, nah, why not use it today?
Are we answering now?
Yeah, do you want me to answer so you can think about it?
No, I know. I
All right,
already know mine.
off to the races, sir. After you.
Believe it or not, I know I look like a Michael Bay guy, but
TMNT2.
Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson is my guy. Um, I think a lot of what directors do that is cool is world building.
Mm,
Taika Waititi's good at this.
so good.
Um, Ted Demme, I thought did a good job of it
Mhm.
in a certain way, like a grimy sort of way. I love Wes Anderson movies because they're timeless and
They
because of the
truly are.
aesthetics.
Oh yeah.
You could be in 1981 or just as easily be in 2019. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
totally.
you just don't know. And the soothing Alec Baldwin narrations, all that stuff just it all adds up to me to something I love. And really for me, the stories and the aesthetic. He uses great actors. I'm not, as you know, an Owen Wilson fan, but somehow he makes him
He works with
likable.
them very well in those films.
So, this is a tough one for me
I was gonna
to
say
pick
that
the film.
with Wes Anderson, it's way harder to pick a specific film
Yeah.
of his works because all of them are so well together. I watched during COVID for the first time. I watched Fantastic Mr. Fox because they put it on Disney
Yes.
Plus. I had never seen it before, and it's such a good movie.
It's so good.
And the way that they play with adult themes, but also in a very kid-friendly manner, is just brilliant. Not to mention everything else good that we've said about Wes Anderson and how he does film.
And it's amazing how that stop motion animation
Mm,
holds Wes Anderson's style just as well as anything else you've seen.
absolutely. So what would
Moonrise. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask? What would you say is your favorite by him?
Ah,
You're about to say Moonrise Kingdom, but I don't think that
no,
was
no,
your
no, no. That's
answer.
not one of my favorite. I was gonna say Moonrise Kingdom is one of the latter ones, and the
You didn't like it too
Budapest
much?
Grand Budapest Hotel. I mean, it's just like so many good ones. But for me, it comes down to two: the Royal
I had a
Tenenbaums
feeling that had to be up there.
and Life Aquatic Steve
I
Zuzu.
I knew it.
Um,
When you said two, I was like, it's got to be Royal Tenenbaums and Life Aquatic.
I, oh man, it's hard. You know what it is? Okay, I'm gonna take Steve Zuzu.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick Steve Zuzu, and I'm gonna do it because Bill Murray and Gene Hackman basically play the same kind of like fallen father figure kind of
Yeah.
thing. But Steve Zuzu, Life Aquatic, Steve Zuzu, not the character, but the movie,
Right.
made me root for Owen Wilson, which I didn't think I could ever do.
No matter
By
what
the
movie
way,
it was, you hated Cars the entire time you watched it.
no, I like cars, but uh,
That's different because you don't see his face.
it's kind of a weird thing to say because I actually, now that I think about it, I actually really do like a lot of Owen Wilson movies.
That's so funny.
But no, man, I got to go with Steve Zuzu because Bill Murray was just so fantastic in that movie and just such a bastard. Like just
Yeah.
like and it's the type of and like subtle little things like making David Bowie songs Portuguese.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just little subtle stuff like that. And a lot of the stuff he plays with visually, like turning the boat into a diorama.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like stuff like that is just brilliant.
It just plays so well. I got the same feelings when I did watch, like Grand Budapest Hotel is a film that I think is one of his more forgotten ones. I feel like if you talk about Wes Anderson, you talk about Royal Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic, and maybe Moonrise Kingdom. You know what I mean? I feel like Grand Budapest, probably because, what was that, his most recent one?
It wasn't his most recent. Moonrise Kingdom was actually more recent.
Really? Okay.
I you know what it is? I think and I don't know why it doesn't get much love because it's actually a terrific movie, man. It's like really, really good.
It's really funny. It's really funny. It's like it's really well. It's the same things you were talking about with like visually. That movie is amazing, and just the line of the constable being like, "She's dead," and you think I did it. And then he just runs away. And then it's Edward Norton and the guys being like, after him.
That's like just such a director trademark where people in his movies just stand there and they just start running.
Yeah, it's just an awkward pause and then sprint. And it's no like fun chase music or action music. It's literally just dead silent of the shoes going across the floor. It's so, so funny.
And, I think what it is. Here's what I think it is. I think that there was a time when hipster culture was like king.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And that's when Wes Anderson's movies were the most revered because that was like the apex of hipster culture. From Rushmore, you go Rushmore to Rushmore is actually kind of like Wes Anderson light. That's kind of like our introduction to him, and the way he did characters. Like the way he did characters was so interesting.
Yeah, I feel like that movie was him just kind of like dipping his toes into what would be his future aesthetic. I mean,
absolutely.
It was before all of this crazy COVID stuff happened that we actually saw the trailer for his next film. I can't even remember the name of it. It was like
it's
the French
something about like the Connecticut, the French Journal from Wichita, like Kansas, or something like that. Yeah. But it looks amazing.
It looks great, and I gathered no information from the trailer other than, hey, a lot of stars I like are in this.
Here's what I gathered from that trailer is that each story, so it's about a newspaper, and each story being told is going to be told in a different way per the movie. Like one was going to be told in black and white, one's going to be told in shot differently, and it looks amazing.
Which is very telling, I think, in media in general. Is probably different viewpoints is what he's going for.
Absolutely. And I think that's, like stuff like that is just so, like subtlety is like his charm. You know what I mean? Like he nails subtlety so well. And honestly, and this is not like, and I'm not trying to be shocking or make a joke. The characters in his movies feel like they're on the spectrum. You know what I'm saying? And not in like a not a joking about autism, but
Yeah, I see what you
be,
mean. That they're
because
all in their way quirky.
not even just quirky. I'm talking like literally like medical definition of like
Oh,
unable
okay.
to look people in the eye,
Mm,
uneffectual, like just not like not they're not being emotional when they're saying things that are emotionally, you know, said.
charged. Yes,
You know what I
yes,
mean? Like so, for
totally.
instance, you know, Luke Wilson is in love with his stepsister
Hmm.
or his adopted sister, Gwyneth Paltrow, and this is a very emotional scene, and nobody's emotional about it. Right before he commits suicide, he has no emotion about it, and
Yeah,
that is like a very that's a very telltale sign of being on the spectrum.
gotcha.
Is lacking that emotion and things like that. So I think there's maybe something to that that there's
That
a
maybe he's
an
trying
I
to almost use that level of um that style as, like, as kind of, I said, like quirkiness, but also a trait so much that people get used to it, so then they don't find it as weird when they come across it in the real world, maybe.
it may not even be that activist. It may
Yeah,
just be that's how he sees the world.
it could be,
You know
it
what I
could
mean?
be.
Like that's just his vision. Because some people handle things more emotionally. You
Right.
forget somebody's nuggets, they might choke you out,
Hmm.
and other people, you tell them you slept with their wives and they don't care,
Right.
but they care, but they don't
They
have
can't,
the
they don't.
ability to emote.
Totally. It's
So
actually interesting. It kind of reminds me, and I know you're not a community guy yet. I'm trying to get you on community.
it's on my list for sure.
It's so good. But there's a character in the show named Abed. He's the quirky, nerdy. He's very meta. He's kind of aware that he's in a TV show, but that's like his charm. But everybody else just thinks he's the weird kid who's making pop culture references all the time. And early on in the show, they, I think in the first episode, they kind of make a joke that, like, oh yeah, he has Asperger's. But then as the show went on in seasons, people with Asperger's came out and said, we love Abed for his representation of us. And Dan Harmon was just like, I'm not even going to do any more research on it because no. It was the opposite. He did so much research that he was like, there is no way I'm going to mess up somebody having a character they can look up to as a
Hmm.
there is a represented version of me in media. And Abed's one of the most, if not the most beloved character on that show. And he's a character with Asperger's. And I just think that's really interesting that putting those characters out in front of people just gets them aware that people work differently than you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not wrong, and that's the point. Like it's not the wrong way to be. It's
Right.
just a different way to be, and that's the sense that you get from the show, from the movies that he makes, and furthermore, the acting, even it's like acting, acting subtle is so much harder than acting big.
Totally. Everybody can do
You
a
know,
stereotypical I'm angry, I'm
right?
sad, but it's way harder to actually zoom in on somebody's face and understand all the emotions they're feeling without them emoting it. You know what I mean?
I like you look at so we'll go back to Royal Tenenbaums real
Sure.
quick for the scene where Richie, played by Luke Wilson, is shaving his head
Mm.
and then goes to commit suicide. Set to Elliott Smith, Needle in the Hay,
Mm.
who was, by the way, an artist who committed suicide. Um, Perfectly done, perfectly shot, like so subtle.
Hmm.
Like I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it
Yeah.
because of the way it was done, and the way when he's looking, because he's looking directly into the camera as if it's the mirror,
Yeah.
and it feels like he's looking through you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like he's
Totally.
looking past you, and he's just in so much pain, and he's so confused, and he's got all this other stuff going on, and I mean, just it's when you juxtapose that against the background of how quirky,
Yeah.
to use your word, the rest of the movie is, with the colors and the pinks and the
Totally.
and the boars
Look at
and the boars heads that go on the wall and the
look at the
way that
poster of
Gene
that movie.
Hackman dresses. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Just look at the poster of that movie and tell me
Mhm.
that doesn't come across as fun comedy, but there's so much more to it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think the other reason I chose Steve Zuzu is because of the end of Steve Zuzu,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like his lesson was much more earned than Gene Hackman's lesson.
Gotcha. We should definitely maybe when we're done with Mandalorian, we should do a let's kind of like how we did Marvel, and now we're doing Mandalorian. We should do a rewatch of Wes Anderson films, and then
Love it.
discuss them every week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Mhm.
I would really
I like
to
that a
do
lot.
that. But so my answer, I think. Do you already know what my favorite director is? I think we've had this conversation.
I'm sure we've had this discussion, but I'm very self-centered, so I always forget stuff like that.
Understandable. It's Edgar Wright.
Oh yeah, of course.
Edgar
of
Wright's
course.
my man.
I get it. I totally get it too.
His and kind of not on the same emotional scale that Wes Anderson does his films, but to what you were saying, it's the style and how he does his characters that makes those films so great for me. And
It's
like I've come to you and said I think World's End is one of the best in the Cornetto trilogy. And you thought I was crazy, and it's because of how
do.
he. And you know what? I get it, because Hot Fuzz is literally like one of the best things ever. Shaun of the Dead is a cult classic.
Shaun of the Dead is a perfect movie.
It really is. And honestly, like, World's End does have its problems, but there are so many good character moments. Simon Pegg's character in that film is so interesting to watch, because he really is the guy who peaked in high school and he's never gone back. But then when we finally get to see his character open up, it changes everything. It changes everything that you just watched in the movie. They tell you the entire plot of the film in the first 30 seconds, because it's a recreation of their first night, but with a lot more happening in between. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
Sure,
real.
sure.
It's such a brilliant film. It's not my favorite of his. My favorite to this day, and I don't think will ever be beaten, is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
It's in my top 3. It's definitely in my top 3. You know what's interesting?
What's that?
No Wes Anderson movies are in my top 5.
Of favorite movies?
Yeah, that's really bizarre. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's very bizarre.
It's bizarre. I
But
think it's like
maybe because you have to be in the mood, I think, for a Wes Anderson film.
No, I'll
No?
watch it anytime. You know what I think it is? You know how like when you're playing a game that has a collection of events,
Sure.
and if you just finish third and second every time
Mhm.
and stay in that lane and don't fall down, you'll win first.
Right.
I think it's that kind of thing where it's just steady. So, yeah, I love, dude. Scott Pilgrim is one of the best movies ever made. It was one of
Love
the
it
most
so much.
original things I'd ever seen.
Mhm.
And when I remember when I saw it the first time at the movie theater, I thought, I'll go see this, because that's back in the day when you could go to a movie theater.
What's a
And
movie
I was
theater?
just, yeah, exactly. And I was just looking to kill some time, and I hadn't really heard that much about it.
Okay.
And then I went to go see it, and I was absolutely in love with it.
For me, and this, it was, we were ending our summer break before we had to go back to school, and I had seen trailers for the film, and I told my friends, hey, this looks kind of fun, let's go watch it. And all 3 of us walked out of the movies. All of them were like, yeah, that was pretty good. And I was literally behind them going that was one of the greatest things I have ever seen. And I remember sitting in the seat before the movie started, and I watched this one guy walk in wearing a Scott Pilgrim t-shirt, and I thought, that guy's a nerd. I own 5 Scott Pilgrim t-shirts. I own all of the books. I'm collecting them again in color and hardback.
Wow.
I'm a huge Scott Pilgrim fan. By the way, I gotta lend you the books. They're really, really good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it tells way more of the story, because in the movie it's over the span of 2 weeks or a month, and in the comics it's a whole year. He's with her for an entire year, and those events play out through an entire year. So like,
Wow.
we in book 4, which is my favorite, they're like in the summer and they're like going to the beach and stuff, which is definitely not the aesthetic you get from the movie because it's always in like April where it's freezing. But I love that movie so much. I also really love Baby Driver, but I'm gonna be honest, after the stuff with Kevin Spacey, it's been really hard for me to go back and watch that movie. And I know I should just put it in the back of my head, but
it's hard though.
It's really hard, and I love that movie to death. That music in that film is, it's just everything I want.
That movie feels like an hour and a half music video.
It really does, and it's funny because Edgar Wright did a music video. I'm trying to remember what was the name of the song, but the idea was it is a guy who is a getaway car driver sitting in his car listening to music while the bank robbers are going on, and the entire music video is him like messing around in his car, honking on the horn, like doing the windshield wipers. And he had this idea after he did the music video where he's like, I bet I could make that into a full movie. And it was 10 years later, and he did Baby Driver, and he had just been working on it, and it's brilliant. So it's funny that you say it looks like a very long music video because it started as a music video.
So, okay, let me ask you this question about Scott Pilgrim.
Sure.
Knives Chow or Ramona Flowers?
Ramona Flowers.
Is that where you got your big crush on Mary Elizabeth Winstead?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
The new character in Apex at just the right angle. She looks like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, so I'm like, I'm gonna keep playing as her.
So what about Ramona Flowers versus Brie Larson's character?
Still Ramona Flowers. Envy Adams is a really cool character, but the fact of the matter is, and they go a little bit more into in the comic, which could be affecting my decision. She truly does break up with him for a completely other guy, and then even as her life gets worse and worse and worse with this guy, as she gets famous and famous and famous, it's after the guy gets defeated, Scott shows her the smallest amount of like gratitude.
Interest?
Not even interest, just being nice, you know? And suddenly it sparks in her like, oh wow, like I gave up on somebody pretty special kind of deal. And that mentality is sad enough, but the fact of the matter is Ramona is like too cool for him, and she knows it, and she's been with all these other horrible guys, but she prefers to be with Scott in the end. Which, if you didn't know this, the original ending of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is Ramona leaving and him going off with Knives.
I had read that, and I'm glad they didn't do that because, first of all, Knives is too young for him.
Well, yes. She is still a high schooler. By the end of the movie, she's 18. But
17.
No, by the end of the movie, she's 18.
Oh, okay. It's just, I think it's much better with him going with Ramona.
I do,
honestly.
too. Apparently, Brian Lee O'Malley, the creator of the books, he was still finishing the books when they were working on the movie. And he gave the initial plan to Edgar Wright, like, this is how I want it to end. He's going to go with Knives, and Ramona's going to leave. And Edgar thought, okay, I guess we'll do it. And then some fans learned that that's how the movie was going to end, and they assumed that's how the books were going to end, and they all did this huge outcry of, like, he has to go with Ramona.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what was all that for if he didn't end up with it?
And that's even what Knives says.
I know he was learning about himself. I know here's the thing.
Scott earned the power of self-respect.
Exactly, but throughout the movie, Scott isn't a good guy.
You know what I mean? He's a horrible person.
I wouldn't go that far.
Not like a jerk, but he doesn't. He plays everything as if he's the victim and he wants the girl, like he just wants the girls kind of. Right. That's his MO.
He's so aloof the whole time, and I don't know. So like I don't know. One of my favorite moments is the like all the battles are cool, but I love when the Black Sheep. Yeah. When Clash of Demon Head does Black Sheep.
Yep.
And that version of that song, it's a metric song originally. Mm-hmm. But that version of that song to me is so much better than the original.
Which it's sad. I believe on the album for the movie, they just put the original version on there.
It
And
did,
and it's
but
not the cover.
I have the special edition
The
vinyl.
special edition does come with the Brie Larson version, right?
Yeah.
Have you
Mhm.
seen the blooper? Have you seen the blooper when she's like doing the from you and she just slips and falls
No,
on the
that's
stage?
really funny.
It's really great because Brandon Routh's there as Todd Ingram, and he immediately is like, oh, like rushes to help her.
Superman, yeah,
Well,
obviously.
of course, but oh, such a good movie.
It is a great movie.
I always see on like Facebook and Twitter and stuff trending like, if you had to recite a movie word for word, what would it be? And I'm like, Scott Pilgrim. I know that movie word for word.
Well, you kicked my heart in the ass, so.
Well, you kicked my heart in the ass, so.
Man, what a great movie.
God, I love it so much. We both had good answers. I'm giving
agreed.
myself and you a pat on the back.
That's my head when I'm at it.
Okay, that's a good thing. Anyways, we got a couple of trailers, just two. I made you watch one that I guess you're not into. And we're going to start with that one. The Lego Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh, no, I was way into that.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought that was the one you weren't into.
No, that looks great. That looks like a lot of fun.
I'm really happy you like it because Lego.
I love Lego movies.
For some reason, Lego just know how to do comedy right on terms of references.
Mhm.
And this looks like if you're a Star Wars fan, here you go. All the references in the world, and they're funny, and they make sense.
It's a basket full of Easter eggs, man. It
really is.
It looks amazing, and voice work from the people,
Right.
and it's a time travel Star Wars saga. So it's like old Han Solo meet young Han Solo, Darth Vader meets Kylo Ren.
We get the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda in it.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
When it showed
all
them,
the
I was like,
universes.
ah!
Yeah, it's really cool. It looks really cool.
I love that joke at the end where it's Greedo and old Han's with the young Han, and he's like, "You want to shoot first?" It looks great. I'm really happy that's the one you liked.
I can't believe you thought that was the one I was gonna not like.
Honestly, because I watched the trailer for this next one. What is it, Bridgerton? It looks interesting, but it's scandals. I mean, they even have in there like from the creators of Grey's Anatomy, and I was like, never mind.
I tell you, if I'm done with anything, it's this old English bullshit. Everything looks like a Manet. You know what I mean? Like I don't have any interest in it. I saw Vanity Fair once, which was that Reese Witherspoon movie where she was, it was back set in the old colonial times or whatever in England. And I just don't care. I just don't care. I don't like the way I can't understand their accents. I understand foreign languages better than I understand English accents.
It's really funny.
So I have no interest in watching How to Get Away with Murder set in pre-Victorian London. I just don't.
Yeah. Well, I think it looks interesting enough. I'm sure a lot of people will like it. I'm probably not gonna watch
I feel like I should kick your ass for wasting my time.
What, for me making you watch the trailer? Look, we don't have any others. I had to pad the runtime.
I feel you.
At least we're gonna get to talk about more Mandalorian. But what do you say we get into some news?
I love it. Yeah.
All right. So today we have a couple of things, but to start off, I wanted to talk about this Charlie. I never know how to say his last name. Hunnam. Okay. I didn't know if it was Hunnam, like you had to stress the am part, but Hunnam. Charlie Hunnam wants to be the next Bond. He wants to throw his hat into the ring for the chance to be Bond. He doesn't think it's going to happen, but I wanted to know, because you're a big Sons of Anarchy fan, I wanted to know what you would think about him playing the role.
I think he could do it, man. And I'm not only I'm a Charlie Hunnam fan. Like I saw he's a really good actor.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of his stuff that wasn't Sons of Anarchy, wasn't anything like Sons of Anarchy.
Right.
He has I think he could pull it off. I really do. I
think he could.
You look at some of the stuff he did before Sons of Anarchy, where he was kind of like a model and stuff like that, and he dressed up and everything, and I think he could pull it off. And he's British. Like it may not be apparent, but he's British.
Yeah.
I watched him in this movie Papillon.
Paleon.
which was an interesting. It's a movie where he was like a thief, or maybe he didn't do anything wrong, but he slept with the wrong woman. He got thrown in jail.
Oh, okay.
Back when before the French, when they were still like really evil, and they threw him in like Papua New Guinea in one of these jungle prisons, and
Right.
it was him and Rami Malek, and he was like kind of looking out for Rami Malek for money kind of deal. But it was like it was a big departure from Sons of Anarchy is the point. And he pulled it off.
Kind of showing his acting
everything
chops.
I've ever seen him in, he pulls off. So I think him as James Bond, obviously he from an attractive and sexy point, he can pull it off.
Go on.
Huh?
I said go on.
Well, no, I mean, I just like ladies love him. I like
Right.
and I'm sure that dudes that love dudes also probably love him because he's a very attractive man. And I always made fun of him in the first few seasons of Sons of Anarchy because whenever he had to do dirt, he would sit in the shower and cry, like when he had to kill somebody or something like that. And I would always, inevitably, whatever woman I was near would be like, oh, I could just watch him in the shower all day. So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah. So I definitely think he could pull it off.
Sure. I think so too.
I would be really interested to see that.
Yeah, he doesn't think he's on even a short list. But
He's probably not, because
yeah,
I don't know that he's got a big enough name.
Exactly.
Idris Elba has been tossed around a lot.
Idris Elba would be one I'd like to see.
Idris Elba's getting a little old.
It's his age that's the issue.
Yeah.
I do know, in at least the report that I read about Charlie potentially, just talking about it. The report that I read, the person who wrote the article was like, but as far as we know, Henry Cavill is the top running one, and I'm like, he's too big for it. And I'm not talking about like name recognition. I mean literally too big. He's a huge man, and I cannot imagine. Like, James Bond needs to be tough but slim, right?
I don't know. I don't know that's necessary. I mean, Idris Elba is very, very built as well.
That's true. He especially, what was it, Hobbs and Shaw, that he was like giant. But I don't know. It was like, it's because I've seen Henry Cavill in like The Man from U.N.C.L.E., because that's my running gag that I'm the only person who ever saw that film.
You really are. That must have been your uncle, because you're the only person who's seen it.
But he honestly, like, the way he wears a suit, I mean, just take Mission Impossible Fallout. I don't get James Bond vibes from that. You know what I mean?
I do. 100%. There's a thing about James Bond, and the James Bonds that they've casted haven't always had it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean?
Like the guy, like Pierce Brosnan, it's kind of like Batman. You know what I mean? Like, there's actually two parts: the gentleman and the spy.
Right.
Some guys can pull off the gentleman. Some guys can pull off the spy, but not everybody can pull off both. Now, I think Daniel Craig is probably my favorite Bond.
Really?
Because if I'm being 100% honest with myself, I didn't really love Bond movies before Daniel Craig's movies.
Well, I think, and I think we've had this conversation before. I think it's because James Bond, as a franchise, alters how it feels throughout the movies as to what an action film is. So in a modern day action film, it plays out how we as a modern audience want to see an action film. It's exciting.
Right.
It's got a great plot, and there's some really incredible looking stunts in it. And
the action's close.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it feels like you're in the tussle. Now, like, so you take like Pierce Brosnan. Like, Pierce Brosnan pulls off the gentleman, but he can't pull off the spy.
And again, in his films, those action films were, I would say, what was that? When was Pierce Brosnan's run? Like
90s.
That's what I thought. So like 90s era, sometimes the action films were a bit cheesy. And
I feel like up until Daniel Craig's run, they were all super cheesy.
Well, yeah, I mean, They all kind of
Well,
start with a one-liner and a wink. You know what I mean?
with all the sex puns
Sure.
and that's fine. You know what I mean? Like I'm not denigrating that because there's people that like that. It's just not for me. You know what I mean? Like
Tank,
I don't want an action movie that's part Porky's.
You don't like sex puns?
I do like sex puns, but not my action movies. You know what I mean?
Touche. Got it.
You know, or at least I like a little subtlety in my sex puns. You know what I mean? Not like, hey, this is labia clitoris over here. You know what I mean?
Not Quagmire from Family Guy.
Right. Like I make it a little subtle, or make the joke about, you know, but don't beat me over the head with it. Totally. You know what I mean? Like, oh, hey, nipples, can you get me a drink? You know what I mean? Like it's just you don't need it. You know what I mean? But totally. when the opening scene of Daniel Craig's first movie, he's doing parkour.
Right.
And it's dope. And that's a dope chase scene. And it's got nothing to do with bulky automobiles or, you know, it feels like that Bond's not afraid to get down in the dirt. And I love that.
They've really altered what Bond is.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think they're winning with him. You know, like I've never been really excited for the next Bond film because it just comes out and then I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta go watch that. It's this Bond film coming out, his last one, that I'm like really excited for. I've rewatched the trailer a bunch of times just to watch that car just barely go over his head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm really excited for this next one.
Yeah, that's great.
And you know, I bet it's gonna be a great send off for Daniel.
Yeah, can't not be. I don't think.
But so our next news story is that there is a Boba Fett series in the works at Disney Plus. I am not happy about it because I hate Boba Fett, and we had this discussion last week with the Mandalorian.
And I don't care enough about Boba Fett to defend it. It's one of those things where, do we need it? You know what I mean? Like, do we need it?
Because think about it. Then we'll have 2 series featuring Mandalorians.
And also, isn't Boba Fett's allure that Boba Fett is mysterious, and that
but then people build his story around his mysteriousness, and that's what makes him quote unquote cool. So the fact that we're going to be getting more Boba Fett actually kind of shows me, and will show a lot of people, how uncool he really is, or at least in my opinion. I don't know. They're probably going to release a trailer, and I'm going to say, oh, that looks really good. It looks like The Mandalorian. But people like The Mandalorian. I think Disney is just trying to cash in on the good thing they have, but I don't want them to overdo it because Mandalorian, even up to Season 2, Episode 2, as far as I have seen, is really, really good. And
it's great.
They don't need to mess with what the good thing they have. You know what I mean?
I agree. And it's one of those things where if you start messing around too much and start adding too many, it just becomes too much.
Yeah. And honestly, the only Star Wars related project I'm actually excited for right now is, well, obviously other than future episodes of Mandalorian, is the Kenobi TV series. That's only going to be 4 episodes. And that's all I need. I'm sure I would love it to be longer, but if they want to tell a very tight, limited story with Obi-Wan, with Ewan McGregor, who I love, then I'm fine with them just leaving it at that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I don't need, you know, it was Ron Howard recently said, like, oh yeah, like, if people want a solo Star Wars story too, I think we could do it. There's no plans for it right now, but I think we could do it. And I'm like,
see, that's the thing, is you can't always give people what they want, because sometimes what they want is stupid.
Right, because then we get too much.
Yes.
We don't need too much of a good thing.
Absolutely
because
not.
Then we won't recognize necessarily when it's bad. I mean, it took a long time for people to kind of be like, maybe these Star Wars sequels aren't that good. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, first of all, everything that's not the original trilogy to me is almost not universally garbage. That's my opinion.
Including The Mandalorian?
No. Now, that's different.
You mean like
in the
that
films.
Takes place?
Yeah, in the sequel and the prequels.
Okay.
I can't get down with sequels or prequels. I thought they were all pretty whack. But
Rogue One?
Huh?
Rogue One?
I thought Rogue One was okay.
Yeah.
I
didn't.
loved Solo because I thought it was fun.
Right. I didn't like any of the
Um,
characters in Rogue One other than the droid.
I didn't care much about anybody in it. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, if that means anything to you, I just didn't care.
Maybe it's because we knew what the ending was gonna be. If you're a Star Wars fan, you already know how that story is gonna end. So
you definitely can tell when people are cashing in on something.
totally. Yeah.
And that they didn't have a story. They just, hey, we need a story for this. You know, Transformers, GI Joe, He-Man. Those were all people designed a toy and said, hey, come up with a backstory. Luckily, fortunately, the people that came up with backstories for those were brilliant storytellers.
Mm-hmm.
So the stories have actually outlast the toys of those things. But just because you have a product doesn't mean you should necessarily have a movie or a story.
Sure.
I feel all the time, you know, obviously those three things are an example of when it didn't have to be, but I feel like all the time the story has to come first. Everything else followed. Star Wars was a story, then they came up with the products.
Right.
But then once they realized how much they could get for the products, they went with Kenner because nobody else was interested. Nobody else wanted to take a chance.
If anybody doesn't know the story of Star Wars toys and merchandising, it is incredible to watch. Go on Netflix. I think the easiest way to watch it is the Toys That Made Us, right? In the Star Wars Toys episode.
Yep.
So interesting and really like I said, tale as old as time. It is incredible that they went, I don't know if people are going to buy Star Wars toys.
Right.
Really?
Like, well, you done messed up, pal.
You really done messed up.
So, like, it's one of those things where, like, if they would have had the toys and, like, okay, we need to write stories around this, you know, you don't always have the horses to make that work.
Right.
But, and that's what it felt like the sequels and the prequels were. Like, I know there was lore in place, but that doesn't mean that it was written well, acted well, directed well, you know. So there's just a lot of things that I feel like they misfired on in those 6 movies. So, I don't feel like there needed to be more. You know what I mean?
Understand. I'm not opposed to more. However, I'm in the same boat as you. Not necessarily thinking like, you know, everything's garbage past the original trilogy, on terms of major films. However, the bar is so high that nothing will live up to how good those original films are. You know, I've met people who their first iteration of Star Wars were the prequels, so they don't hold the original trilogy as high because they're comparing it to the prequels. And
right.
I'm like, okay, well, you're comparing it to vastly inferior films, but because it's your first impression of it, you just don't know it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So us living in this time with The Mandalorian kind of pulling more reference material from kind of all edges of Star Wars and doing it right, and I don't know, that Mandalorian is really like lightning in a bottle for new Star Wars products.
Well, also, I think that Mandalorian is unique because me, as a casual Star Wars fan, I feel like a person who has never watched a Star Wars movie in their life could pick up in that movie or pick up in that show in the first episode and be invested because of how good it is and the themes.
Right.
I feel like the themes are universal regardless of the universe.
If it didn't have anything to do with Star Wars, it would still be a fantastic show.
Absolutely.
It'd just be another sci-fi show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, real quick, we're just going to talk about this. I thought this was interesting to bring up because me and Tank have both been pretty, I wouldn't say vocal, but we have our opinions on this whole thing. And I just think it's kind of a really shitty thing to do. But Johnny Depp is now not going to be playing Grindelwald in the third Fantastic Beasts movies. Personally, I haven't even seen the second one. And I know, Tank, have you seen either of the Fantastic Beasts films?
I saw the first one. It was fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, but it's like kind of like what we were talking about before. If you're invested in Harry Potter and they then go, well, here's Harry Potter without Harry Potter, I don't really care.
True.
You know what I mean? So Grindelwald is the main villain of the Fantastic Beasts franchise, and they're planning on doing a third one. He was supposed to come back as Grindelwald, and now Warner Brothers, after all of this allegation stuff with Amber Heard, even though now everything is going in Johnny Depp's favor, they're still saying, "Hey, do you mind not playing the character for the third Fantastic Beast movie?" And Johnny Depp agreed. He said it's fine. You know, he made the statement that he agreed to not come back as the character. They're going to recast him, and Warner Brothers thanked him for his work. But really, it's really upsetting because I don't necessarily care about Grindelwald, but I care about Johnny Depp, and him not playing the character, I think is just going to push in more people's mind that Johnny Depp has been canceled. You know what I mean?
Yeah, honestly, when everybody thought Johnny Depp had done wrong,
Yeah.
it was all anybody could talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we found out that not only did he not do that stuff that he was accused of, but he was actually the victim in a lot of the situations.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about it. Like nobody's I don't know, man. I think this is like one of those things where it's just really unfair, and
unfair.
It comes down to money, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like frankly, I feel like a lot of this came down to Amber Heard trying to get a lot of money from Johnny Depp.
Right.
And I think that she came out with guns blazing, and maybe honestly, this to me shows me that, all right, you don't want me in the movie, I'll step away because I don't want to bring bad press. I mean, that's a good guy move. You know what I mean? Like that's
but I'm afraid of how people would then see, who are fans of Fantastic Beasts, see Grindelwald and go, that's a different, so it's not Johnny Depp. Oh man, I guess he did do wrong.
No, and it's one of those things where if you ask people right now, right at this moment, before any of that even happens, they probably still think Johnny Depp was the abuser, because that's what they had last heard, and nobody has cleared it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was never a big retraction. We saw the video of him slamming cabinets.
Yeah.
But we haven't talked about any of the stuff that she had done.
Mm-hmm.
So he never, as far as I know, as far as the information I have, and again, we may be getting wrong information now, but the information that I have is that she was the one who was physically abusive.
Yep.
He never was physically abusive with her.
All of his very close friends and relatives, and they've said he's just not that guy. He's not the guy that she claimed him to be. And as more and more come out that say, he's not the guy who did any of that stuff, he never did any of that stuff, it's really sad to see that now affects him just because she wanted money. You know what I mean?
It's just, it happens in the business, man. Like, I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't want to look like I'm taking sides on anything, but like somebody was accused of something, right? Something heinous. And then they brought out all this proof. Like, so the news cycle for the entire day, the next 2 days, was about how this person had done something, this terrible thing, these terrible things. And then at the end of the cycle, he came out and he said, well, look, he came with receipts, dog. He came out and said, look, here's all my interactions. You can double check them bitches. And I was completely above board and made the right moves, made the right call. In fact, here's them coming back after, and nobody talked about that. Yeah. Like you had to seek that out. You had to find that information. You had to find out that he was defending himself because nobody's talking about it. You know what I mean? And that's the way it goes.
Yep.
That's, the sensational story. Once it hits, nobody wants to hear the context. Everybody just wants the sensational story. So, it sucks. And a lot of people have been hurt by that and lost money and careers. I mean, it's, we can't even talk about it.
Sure,
really,
because
with in any earnest way, because we could get pinched.
Totally. But I just want people to know that I do, even though, like you said, it was the good guy thing for Johnny Depp to do, I do feel bad that he will not be able to finish this role for this series. It's pretty upsetting, in my opinion.
You shouldn't feel bad for him because they're going to probably still stack him up with money.
Oh, sure. But, it's the role behind it, I guess.
It's the principle. No, I get it. I get there's a principle behind it, and he started. He can't finish it because
Yeah.
of all this stuff, and frankly, him stepping down is the bigger person move.
Right.
You know, I mean, like that's hey, look, I don't want to cause you any harm, so I'm just gonna back out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's how many people would do that?
Really. All right, well, we're going to give our reviews very quick, and then we're going to start talking about The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 2. I am very excited to talk about this episode. Tank, what do you have for us today?
For a recommendation.
Okay,
I'm going to go with a classic.
Ooh, okay.
From the 80s. Joe versus the Volcano.
Oh, that's a great movie.
It's if you have Xfinity, it's on demand right now for free.
Awesome.
If you have the movie channel, so you can watch it for free. Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks first worked together.
Have they ever been in a movie before?
What's that?
Have they ever been in a movie together before?
I think so, but I'm not sure. I can't remember. But this was the first one, and Meg Ryan plays multiple roles. It's very funny.
Mm-hmm.
It has so much heart. I mean, it was before Tom Hanks was Tom Hanks.
Totally.
And you could see that he was a star in the making at the time.
What was the movie that really made him who he is? Big? Probably?
No, League of Their Own.
League of Their Own. Yeah. There's no crying in baseball.
Because that was I think the first really super serious role that he took, and then I believe right after that was Forrest Gump.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I think that's kind of like when it was like, all right, this guy's the real deal. But I mean, I loved all his Turner and Hooch, and I love Dragnet, and like he's just a funny guy. But this movie has such great themes, and one of my favorite quotes of all time from anything. He says, I don't want to screw it up because it's kind of
paraphrasing.
But he says, "Dear God, even though I don't know who you are, thank you for my life. I forgot how big it was." And I mean, that's like, and this is a scene when he's drifting in the ocean under a giant moon.
Right.
And it's amazing. And so I can't recommend that movie enough. And there's like, it's the type of movie where there's a lot of themes and a lot of underlying stuff, but it's almost like it's for dumber people because they make it really obvious.
Gotcha.
So you could find it in there.
Yeah, you can enjoy it.
It's so good.
It's great. My recommendation is a bit of a different one, and it's something I've been meaning to ask you, Tank, because I don't think we've ever had this conversation. Have you ever, or are you a fan of any animes?
Not really.
Not really?
I mean, I can't think of any. I tried watching Voltron for the sake of the old Voltron that I used to love when I was a kid.
Yeah, totally.
But it lost my interest.
Yeah. I know our buddy Nick, me and him talk about like Dragon Ball Z all the time. Like, I don't watch a lot of animes, but when I find one that's really, really good, I just dive right into it, and it's really fun. I started watching one that was recommended to me because I love video games, and the name of it is Overlord. And the premise is very interesting. The idea is that it's a big, massive multiplayer online game, MMO, where a guy is super overpowered, and he's played the game like for 11 years. But after 11 years, they're turning off the servers. So as his goodbye to the game, it's like a VR headset that he's in. He is sitting in his chair as kind of like all right, well, because this is the only place where I'm happy, I'm going to sit in this chair, and I'm just going to wait for the clock to run out. He's going to wake up in the real world kind of thing. He's like going to sleep in the game.
Right.
Servers turn off. He wakes up. He's still in the game. And his console that he can like control things, gone. But he's still the character. And the NPCs, the non-playable characters that are in the castle that he built with his friends, are suddenly alive. And they're talking to him and treating him like the king of the castle that he is. All of his friends are gone. All of these NPCs are real, and their whole castle has been transported to a real fantasy world that he now, as the overpowered character from a video game, then tries to take over. And that's the premise of the show, is him taking over this new world with video game logic. So
That's awesome.
there's like an ogre, and he's like, must be around level 15. And there's like this other person that's like, level? What are you talking about? And he's like, should be no problem. And he like casts a spell and it disintegrates. And they're like, you're the strongest warrior I've ever seen. It's really, really good. And I finished season 1. I've been told it gets really dark after season 1, so I'm really excited for that. But I am just really, really enjoying it. It's a very clever premise, and I don't know. Like I said, I kind of dive deep into new animes, and this one's really good.
I like that idea. It kind of reminds me of Free Guy, that movie coming out. It's got it's kind of got that vibe to it.
Yeah. But anyways, that's it for our recommendations. We're going to talk about Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 2 right now. We're at 55 minutes, so this episode did go longer than I was thinking it would be. But, I mean, I feel like you and me are going to say very similar things about this episode. So
absolutely. And so, like, if you haven't seen it yet, spoiler alert, obviously.
This is your spoiler warning. Please go and watch the episode. Come back and listen to what we have to say about it. I have seen pretty much outstanding good things about this episode, so I think you'll enjoy it. But here we go. Tank, what did you think about the episode?
I absolutely loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I love how we start the episode with action. You know, like right and we pick up right where we left off from the last episode, you know.
Yep.
And you know, you can't say it enough that this is a space western, you know what I mean? And
totally.
That's what you get. That's the vibe you get. And the Mandalorian is an awesome character because he's a survivor. He's a badass. He does the right thing. He's smart. And now it seems like what we're doing is like we're also monster hunters.
A little bit. Like this episode, like, because I was thinking about it too when we got that big spider thing at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here going, God, are they gonna do like this terrifying creature every episode? What's going on?
It's the kind of thing that makes you go, man, space sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like
scary.
everywhere you go, there's giant things that want to kill you.
Yeah.
I laugh because the child, aka Baby Yoda, is a sociopath that just murders at will.
Dude, like the moment he looked at those eggs, I was like, there's a picture of you from season 1 with a frog in your mouth. Please, for the love of God, do not eat those eggs. He eats like 5 of them. God damn it, Baby Yoda. Too much. Too much.
Baby Yoda he's wilding out, man, it's funny.
He's getting into his adolescence. He's gonna start like rebelling.
And then you got the Mandalorian. He's like, no, I told you no, and it's like it's so funny, dude. It's
and
like,
all I'm thinking is like, Mando, he's like a foot tall. Just hold on to him.
Right, just keep an eye on him. There's a lot of times where you're like, hey man, you got to keep an eye on this little guy.
The moment that like they were getting pinged by the 2 New Republic X-Wings coming in, and he like wakes up and he's like, I'm gonna go check on that. I'm like, take Baby Yoda with you. He's gonna eat like 5 more of those eggs. That is the remaining eggs of that frog lady's species, and you're letting him eat them.
Yeah, he was like an old drunk at a bar eating pickled eggs out of the. I mean, like, it's crazy, and no, I liked it a lot. I gotta tell you, man, like the themes and the it's so fun. I'm not a big enough Star Wars fan to know who those guys were, but I get the feeling that they were people from the first Star Wars movies.
The guys in the
patrol
X-Wings?
guys.
So from what we are gathering from the world that exists now is there is a thing called the New Republic, which has
no. I got that. I mean, like they're like is one of them Porkins? You know what I mean?
No. I think they were just 2 random guys working with the New Republic. You know, so
they're like
just
space highway patrolmen.
They're literally space highway patrolmen, and like it's so funny with them doing like, yeah, we just need you to send us a ping. And he's like, it doesn't seem to be working. And then when he goes like, well, we're going to have to bring you in for questioning then. And he's like, oh wait, here it is. I was
Hey,
like,
what do you
yeah.
know? It's working now.
But honestly, like, man, that episode, it was really great. And going back to what you were saying before, that first like 5 minutes of the episode, the whole episode's good. That first 5 minutes of that action is the best part of that episode.
Yeah, probably.
It's incredibly well done, and my God, just the guy wanting the jetpack. Boy, did you see it coming? Because I saw it coming, and I was so ready for it.
Yeah, I knew he wasn't gonna let him just get away with it. I didn't know he was gonna do that, but that was a dope move. That was a dope move.
It was really awesome, and yeah, man, that whole episode's great. That frog lady was a bit infuriating, but I get her plight because she's trying to save her species. The moment they crashed on the ice planet and like she seemed very worried, I was like, oh, frogs are cold-blooded. She's gonna die here.
She's not a frog. She's a lizard.
Oh, I believe in the subtitles for the show it says frog lady when she speaks.
Oh, all right.
That's also why she's hopping like that. Like, remember when they were running and she was like hopping?
All right. But I don't believe. Whatever. I'll look it up. I'm gonna prove you wrong. But
you're not gonna prove me wrong.
I also love that this is a continuing adventure. You know what I mean? Like this is not.
Because we know the next episode's gonna start with them landing on that planet. You know what I mean? With them getting to Trask or whatever the name of it was.
Mm-hmm.
God, I was so worried that entire episode with that giant spider thing, because that was. I didn't like it. I was so scared. And of course, it all happens because Baby Yoda just can't stop eating eggs.
He can't stop murdering things.
Honestly, when
he's a sociopath, man.
How did you think they were going to get out of it before the patrol people showed up?
I don't know. I just thought maybe, I mean, like that guy's got a lot of tricks. He's got a lot of things up his sleeve.
I legitimately thought Baby Yoda was going to activate some force power and save them.
I saw this thing where Honest Trailers called him the cutest little MacGuffin that you ever did see, because he only used his powers when it suits the story.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It seems like his powers would have been put to good use anytime during that spider fight, and he did not bother. So,
but I think it's because he's also like learning them. He doesn't fully know he can do it. So like even
possibly,
when he first goes up to the tank of eggs, which I'm screaming, please, for the love of God, don't eat them. He's just putting his hands up to them and he's forcing them closer to his hands. And I'm like, oh, that's a really cool visual. And I bet as a character, he is now learning, oh, this is just something I can do. Because I don't think he's fully aware what he's doing. Kind of like how he choked the one girl out in season 1.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought like, maybe he was feeling the life force of the eggs, not, hey, let's eat a bunch of these. And let's have some deviled frog eggs.
It's also very like terrifying the way he does it, where he's just, it's like a third of his head size and he just puts it up to his mouth and you hear a, and I'm like, oh, no, stop.
He's a little sociopath. It makes you wonder what Yoda's been up to all these years.
Oh God, how many eggs do you think Yoda's eaten?
You think that Yoda was like reassigned to a different planet, like the way they do in certain churches? We won't mess in here.
No, that's why he's at Dagobah, because there's more frogs in the area.
Mm-hmm. Or altar boys.
All right. But overall, I think the episode was very, very well done. I'm fully excited. A lot of people were saying that there wasn't much going on in the episode. Like when the episode ended, they kind of said, "Oh wait, that's it? Like that's all we got?" But I had the same reaction, but not because the episode was short or anything, but because I was so ready for the next episode.
Just want more, yeah.
Exactly. I don't see it as. I see it more as what you're saying, just one long continuous story, because that seems to be the way they're doing it so far. Is like we're just gonna start right off where we ended the last episode.
Well, and every episode can't be, plot point. Sometimes you have to set things up and you have to set scenes and things like that.
By the third episode of season 1, people were calling it filler. That was the episode with the AT-ST attacking that village. Dude, even if it is filler, I don't care because the characters and the story is entertaining because it's so well written and it's so well done. If this episode is our low point of this season, we're gonna have a really awesome season.
I gotta tell you, I did miss Timothy Oliphant the whole time.
Of course, I'm telling you, he's just gonna be a reoccurring character. He's gonna come
That
back
guy
at
was
some point.
that guy was awesome.
He's so great. And honestly, when they took the armor away from him, I was kind of upset.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought he was
gonna
gonna give it to
him.
him.
Yeah.
But we're headed down the path where Boba Fett gets his armor back.
Yeah.
So
and I'm not excited for that because I hate Boba Fett.
You hate Boba Fett.
I'm a Boba Fett hater. All right, well, I think that's gonna do it for our review. I'm really excited for next episode.
Me too.
We're gonna chat a lot about that one, I'm sure. That's gonna do it for today's episode. I did want to mention real quick before we go, because it is another loss that we've had in the past week, and we talked a little bit about Bond earlier. Sean Connery passed away this past week, which, man, yep, thanks got the right idea. It was honestly like he lived a full life, but it is weird to think that the first ever Bond is gone. And honestly, I get where you are saying that Daniel Craig's your favorite, but Sean Connery's where I started because I wanted to start with the first ones. And like those early ones are so fun to watch. I mean, they're not like masterpieces, but he makes them fun. And
well, I mean, like he's great, and you know, as campy as those are, he sets the tone and the standard.
He truly
does. That nobody after him lived up to, by the way.
No, I don't think so. On terms of keeping with that quality
right.
or that style that they're going for, because like we said, Daniel Craig and the new ones, they're in a league of their own. Bringing that back too. The style of campy, fun James Bond will never get, in my opinion, better than Sean Connery's performance of James Bond.
No way.
They're so fun to watch, and you know, he brought a lot of light. I also would say that you know, it's a shame that we lost one of the lead actors from personally what I think is the best Indiana Jones film, The Last Crusade, not The Rock.
Losers are always complaining about the best.
All right. But do you agree with that, Indiana Jones, Last Crusade? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty good. I don't know if it was the best.
Oh, I think it's the best.
Temple of Doom was great.
I love the Temple of Doom. It's my personal favorite, but I think Last Crusade is the best film. It does everything for you on terms of character development, and we get Sean Connery. And he brings that movie so much. Like, he makes that movie happen.
We named the dog Indiana.
But, yeah, it truly is a real loss. And, you know, us from the movie spectrum won't forget him, because he was so iconic in everything that
I mean, really, like one of the best of all time.
Truly. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Tank, how you feeling?
Feel great, man. That's a lot of fun. I love talking about movies. I love talking about TV. So I feel good.
I feel good too. But that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for watching on YouTube. We got No Talking During the Movies on YouTube. Check us out on Instagram, where we give you little hints at what the episode's going to be about and what our recommendations are. But other than that, that's going to do it for us here. I am your host, Stephen Austin.
I am Tank.
And I'm doing finger guns too. Bye.